Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Blessings. Today I'm speaking to the radiant Lucy Dadlani. Lucy used to live beneath a great weight, emotional and physical, until she finally learned how to shed the burden of inner loneliness, painful past experiences, and unhealthy coping mechanisms. For many years, Lucy was a compulsive eater. She used food as a tool to help her escape discomfort in her life, in her marriage, and avoid looking inside, which was ultimately the only place where she would find the path to recovery and fulfillment. Once she started down that path, it was easier to find other tools to help her complete her journey to wellness. She's here to tell us about laughter and love and living a self led life and how to get the body and soul aligned to enliven your potential. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I can't wait to hear about this journey. I know it's been quite an interesting one. Can you just start out by telling us a little bit about your early life? Where were you born?
I was born in Easton, Pennsylvania. I'm the oldest of four. Yeah, to two parents that were quite tough. My dad had bipolar disorder and my mom was from Italy and quite nervous. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So you're the
And I
oldest
was the
child.
oldest, so yeah, everything was on me.
Okay. So how
Yeah.
much difference was between you and your siblings age-wise?
My brother is 4.5 years younger, and then my sister 5.5, and then my youngest sister is 9 years younger.
Wow. So would you say a lot of the responsibility for caring for them fell onto you?
A lot. I was expected to keep the home in order when my mom was working, and I always had to babysit them.
What did your mom do for a living?
She was from Italy and she came to this country back in 1961 and she was right into the garment industry. She sewed buttons onto pants at Strongwear Pants Factory. It's
Oh.
now a fun hangout place. They sell wine there. It's called yeah, there's like a brewery. It's in Easton. It used to be Strongwear Pants. But
Wow, that's
all the Italian ladies worked there, so she was nursing my siblings during her lunch break and then going back and sewing, and she worked on Saturday mornings. I remember I always had to take care of everything, and I had a lot of stress to keep up with the house, and I was young, maybe 10-year-old, 11-year-old, but I wasn't that old doing all that.
That's quite a lot to handle, right? What about your dad? What was he doing?
My dad worked at a sewage plant and he also had a lot of properties. He was always in when he was in a manic state, he bought a lot. So he had a lot of rentals. He was always up or down. That's what everybody
Okay.
knows about bipolar disorder. You're either or.
So as a child, what did you think was going on with your dad? Did you realize there was something not quite right?
Oh, yeah, I knew he wasn't right, and he is also legally blind. It just felt like he was just embarrassing because
Oh.
I grew up on Ferry Street in Easton where my friends were from American parents and they in my mind as a child, it seemed like they had the normal parents and I had the ones that weren't because as a child I didn't know that everybody had problems.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
true.
yeah, so
And
I just knew that he was like always going to blow, felt or be loud. He was always loud and pretty embarrassing because of being loud. He was a big man that couldn't be hidden by
mm,
voice or body.
was it like a walking on eggshells kind of environment?
I always found ways to escape. It was either with friends or food. So I didn't walk on eggshells because I found my way to not feel that.
So food early on was your go-to.
Oh, yeah. Food does the trick from
It
early
does.
on. Yeah, it does the trick because it's immediate. It's
Yeah, that's right.
immediate.
Oh,
It, and then you need more to feel better or to stuff. Yes,
yeah.
I definitely stuff my feelings with food.
So what's one of your earliest memories of doing that?
One of my most significant memories and early as well as early is I was alone in I don't even remember where everybody was, but all I remember I was alone and I'm turning 60 this year, so it was quite a while ago. It was when Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family were on Friday nights. They were the Friday night shows and you had to turn the dial on the TV. So I remember being in my bedroom and I couldn't settle myself. I was watching the Brady Bunch. Do you remember that show?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I kept going to the refrigerator or the cabinets looking for food and then lying in bed. And then I was throwing the wrappers behind. And I just kept eating through both shows. Like it just had no end. And just hiding those wrappers.
You would hide the wrappers.
I would not only, yeah, I remember throwing them. It was such a messy thing. I can't behind my bed.
Did anyone find them?
I don't remember that. My mom knew that I had a weight issue and she tried to control that, but I don't think anybody, it's very, food addiction is very secretive. So I don't think anybody really knew the duration or the extent of how much I was eating. Anytime I had a chance, I was eating because I was
Wow.
never comfortable in my own skin.
When you were very little, were you aware that you had a weight issue?
Always. I can remember being, and I don't know why I remember it was like I was like 5 years old. I can remember climbing on the toilet and opening up the medicine cabinet and looking at my belly. So yeah, I was very aware. I didn't
Okay.
know what it was, but I just was aware that I always wanted to eat.
Did you connect the fact that you were eating to the shape of your body?
Yes. Yes, I knew that.
And how did you feel about it?
I just always felt less than. So in my friendships and relationships, whatever I had, I always worked harder. I was always working hard to make up for that feeling of body shame.
Yeah.
I was never ashamed of myself, my personality, but always the body. And it was always centered around my belly, my stomach. I
Mm.
don't remember feeling bad about my face or my arms, but a lot of feelings around the belly.
That's interesting. I wonder if there's a connection there between the stomach area and things in your life. Did you ever investigate that?
Just that when you eat, that's where the pain, like that's where the relief, it's all going to your stomach. So
Yeah.
somewhere between eating and it entering the stomach and turning into excess weight, it in my mind it still lands there. Like I feel heavy there. It's
Mhm.
that's where it goes. That's where your food is. That people that gain weight, they seem to have big bellies.
Mhm.
At least for me, because I'm an apple shape. I'm only 5 feet tall, and I was always apple, so it was always there. I had a very, I always had a large stomach. Pants were tight, so everything was right in that section.
That's the area where we feel discomfort, like, emotional discomfort. If there's something wrong, you get that sick feeling in your stomach or butterflies in your stomach. And
Everything was the stomach.
yeah, so maybe by eating, it made that feeling go away. Do you have any consciousness of that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Food definitely, yeah, sedated me. It was like a sedation. Right.
Mm,
It did make that butterfly or that nervousness or that overactive mind. It calmed it immediately. But the thing is, had to be a lot of food. Couldn't be. It never ended ever. A bite or a portion, no way. It had to be a lot. Always. It brought me to twice the weight that I am today.
when you were growing up, were you the only person in your family who experienced this type of relationship with food?
Yep. My
Really?
three siblings did not.
Did they experience the
Yeah,
fe
and dad had it.
okay, but your dad had it as well?
I remember him eating big bags of cheese curls and not stopping. I just remember, yeah, I'm sure he used it too. I remember him eating all the
Mhm.
time, and he was also heavy.
Yeah. And so if your mom was your mom like in a typical Italian kind of cook in the family? Did she
She was.
make a lot of comfort foods and things like this?
One thing that she made that was really comforting was bread. 'Cause
Oh,
bread, something about flour, I could eat a whole loaf of it. I remember that would just be such a trigger when she would bake it. I'd wanna sneak it, but she only made, like, 4 loaves. I remember making, like, 4 loaves at a time, and if I ate a whole loaf, that wouldn't, fly.
yeah. Did anyone in the family notice this or make comments about it?
My mom just knew that I had a like, she felt like I hid it, but she knew I was getting plump. But I wasn't really heavy until I could access greater quantities of food, which was college.
Oh, okay.
I was just looking back, I wasn't bony, but I was not obese yet. Maybe
Okay.
slightly overweight. But back then, when you're in high school, even a little overweight seems huge when
Yeah,
you're in high school. Everything seems heightened in high school.
it does. How did it
Yeah.
affect your relationships with other kids?
So it was fine with girlfriends, but I didn't. I never really had luck at having a boyfriend. You know, guys weren't attracted. There was enough weight that I didn't look thin. Yeah. So, but then when I went to college and I could access the cafeteria, I remember they had, because I always wanted the quantity to sedate me. So to get through, I'd use food. And in the cafeteria, you could eat as much as you wanted. And we even
Mhm.
had these big tubs of ice cream. I went to Kutztown University and we had big tubs and you could just go up there and the salad bar. So you had to go through the line for the hot food, which is was not the addictive food. Like it wasn't going to be green beans and a piece of turkey that did it. But the salad bar was very addictive to me because it was the volume. Like some people are addicted to maybe sugar,
Mhm.
I don't, but like candy or whatever, chocolate. But I wanted volume so I could get a lot of salad or a lot, but it would have all that junk on it. And
Yeah.
then those ice cream bins, like having the ability to go up as many times as I wanted. And I remember my friends were like, oh, let's go up again. Let's go up again. So college, I don't know, somewhere between. So I went there and I remember freshman year was 125, which really was not that heavy, but it was because I was so short.
Mhm.
And then I hit 135 immediately. And I don't know, by somewhere between the first year, I hit 195. And I don't know if
Wow.
it was sophomore year. Yeah, it was a big because then I had access to like large quantities of food. I couldn't do that at home. I couldn't eat the 4 loaves of bread. It was a family. And
Yeah.
there was no way to get access to that quantity until college. Consistently get access. I also had access to a lot of food. In high school, I worked at Easton Hospital in the kitchen.
Okay.
And yeah, I had a lot of access because we were allowed to eat for free. When we had a break, we could eat anything we wanted,
Yeah.
as much as we wanted, and it was free, which was like, whoa.
So in high school, it began where you realized you could eat as much as you wanted. And then once you got to college, it was full access to whatever foods you wanted to eat.
Yeah, I didn't have my mom there.
Okay.
I bought it. I could go to the cafeteria. Yes, so I ate enough to gain that much weight. And then I know a lot of people say that, oh, it's pregnancy or, oh, I have a bad thyroid, even when they're older. But truly, you can't, if you're going to gain 50 pounds, it's not a health condition. And, I even talked to doctors. Yes, yes, you can. Of course, it can keep your weight up, but not 50, 60 pounds. Something going on there with food to gain that much amount of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's a lot to gain at one time. Everyone, I think when they go to college does gain weight. I definitely did. And I also went to Kutztown. And so I do remember that. And I remember it not being a very healthy salad bar. And there wasn't a lot of, I don't think, healthy food, although I wasn't into healthy food then either. But I remember that cafeteria experience also being a little bit nerve-wracking because you had to walk in, you didn't know where you were gonna sit, you might have been with friends when you walked in, but it was very overwhelming, that whole situation. Did you ever feel anything like that when you went into that cafeteria?
I remember feeling the impatience. It was so big. Just to go have a meal was such a big deal.
Yeah,
The lines, then the
yep,
big, yes. And it took forever. I just wanted to get the food and get back to my studies.
okay.
But yes, it was a big deal to go have a meal.
It was an event, it was a whole event to get in there, and it was a lot of social pressure, I felt. Did you feel that?
I didn't feel the social pressure, probably because I was eating so much.
So what did you go to school for?
Elementary education.
Me too.
You did?
Yeah. Did you have Dr. Dornish?
Yes. I
He was
remember.
great.
Yeah.
So you went for elementary ed, and what was going on other than your relationship with food? What else was going on in your life at that time? Did you have good relationships with other people?
I remember, yeah, so there was a lot of focus on alcohol. The,
Yes.
the cliffs and drinking. The upperclassmen would have they rented these homes and then they would get kegs. We go to the parties, and I never cared about alcohol because food was my go to. So I just remember going to those parties and I could care less about alcohol. And I was never promiscuous. So I just remember I had no interest in any of that. I was always like looking forward to after the parties where we would come and eat something. Like
Interesting.
even when I was like 20, we would go out dancing, but then we would go to breakfast. My mind was always on food because that's where I got my relief and my comfort, not
Mhm.
from alcohol. And I really, because of my weight, now I'm a plus size. And back then in the early 80s, They didn't have as many plus size clothing stores. They had a few. There was a place called 16 plus. So I was limited because when I hit 195, I was no longer in a size 12. I was more like, I guess, a 16 at the time, or 8, probably a 16. So I couldn't get clothes in regular stores. So I had to look for these special stores. They didn't have sections back then. So that was so depressing whenever I had a wedding or something. Oh my gosh, getting dressed was always so hard. And so I was limited to whatever 16 plus had. And they were ugly clothes.
Mhm,
Nowadays, people can get weight. I don't know. There's just more and more people struggling with weight nowadays. If there's a market for it, so there's plus size clothing everywhere, like
mhm.
everywhere.
I can remember that not being much access to plus size clothing. I don't know. I must have had someone in my life that needed that because I do remember that was an issue. And it is really disheartening. It must have felt very difficult to have to find clothing because that's a time in your life where you're trying to dress up in the weekends, especially you're trying to fit in. And so how did that impact your social relationships?
I just always I remember just feeling pressure to get dressed all the time.
Mm,
So
mhm,
much pressure. So it just added to the anxiety. It was a vicious cycle. So then I had
mhm,
to go somewhere. I especially remember suffering at wedding. Oh my goodness. Or being in a wedding or going to a wedding. Because that was, as now we're exiting college. My friends, they got married earlier than me. And because I guess they had their high school boyfriends and it was easier for them. So they ended up getting married and then they wanted me to be in the weddings and that whole pressure around weddings and getting dressed because my shape did not go with I did not have a shape for a dress.
mm,
I was more
mhm.
comfortable in pants. Now I love wearing dresses all the time. I can
Yeah.
kill it. I can kill it in a dress. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah. I love that you have that feeling now. So you're able to feel the contrast between how it felt before and now how it feels now.
I have tons of dresses.
I love that.
Yeah. So last November for my 59th birthday, I actually wore a sweater dress and I did a photo shoot.
Woo!
Yeah, and you can't wearing a sweater dress, that's hard. You can't wear that with a stomach, a large stomach, distend it or whatever. You can't.
Yeah,
Like,
it's hard. It does show every little lump and bump, right, in the sweater
yeah.
dress. As you were going through this period of college, I know that you mentioned that when you were in high school, you did not get invited to go to the prom. Did you find any relationships, romantic type of relationships once you got to college?
I did have a few dates, nothing really. Even for the prom, I just found somebody at Easton Hospital who took me. Just
Mm,
was like we were just friends that we all worked together. And
mhm,
I remember feeling really embarrassed because I always disliked somebody being too tall. And so he was tall. I don't even remember his name because I blocked it out. He was tall and thin, which was the total opposite of what I would ever want had I been thin myself. I just remember he just looked weird and that was such a bad experience. But we went and yeah, same thing with college. Not really. I didn't really have a full-fledged boyfriend until grad school.
okay.
It definitely affected because I didn't want to just date for dating. There were people that liked me, but they turned me off. So I didn't get somebody who I would choose, if that
Mhm,
makes any sense.
sure.
I didn't have choice. Yeah, I always tell my daughter, I said, all I want you to do is have choices, whether you want them or not. I think with the weight at young age, I didn't have choices
Mhm.
that I enjoyed. They were not good choices for me.
It feels like it was different at that time because at this time now, I know plenty of people who are very curvy and have lots of luck with their romantic partners and have much more of a sense of loving themselves in the body that they're in. Is there a part of you that wishes there might have been a different kind of cultural ideology around that kind of curvy figure back then?
But yeah,
You think it would
just
have been easier for you if you had grown up now in today's society?
that's interesting. Yeah, I definitely I felt overweight unique. I was like uniquely suffering or yeah, now it's just oh my gosh, it's so out. People talk about everything. It was more secretive back then, the suffering if you were overweight, but it definitely is painful. But yeah, there weren't as many people like me. Definitely not. Like I said, they didn't even have the stores. Yeah, so now I would have had more choices of clothing and there would have been more people like me. Having excess weight hurts no matter what, even if there are other people with it. Like somebody
Mhm,
else being overweight doesn't take the pain of my weight, if that makes
mhm.
any sense.
Yeah,
It hurts. It just hurts. It
it
hurts
does
some.
hurt. Do you
Yeah.
think some of these people who are embracing it these days are truly hurting on the inside?
Yes. I don't believe it for a second that somebody could say, I'm fine. And I'm not saying I'm not judging or anything, but I
Yeah.
know it hurts. Yeah, I don't think anybody is truly at peace when they're turning to food for comfort and
Mm.
its result because carrying that weight really hurt. And I've had a lot of people tell me that, oh, it doesn't affect me. I'm still an athlete. I could still do this. I could still do that. And then it's not really the case. It really does bother them. It actually bothers them more than I ever realized. And I don't know that until they're working with me and they share.
They
Say, yeah.
start to really they dig into themselves, into their identity.
I thought, oh, they don't care. They're so comfortable in their own skin. But yes, that's what's projected, but that doesn't mean in their hearts they really feel that way. But I've learned that I always laughed. And so people never thought it bothered me. I laugh easily all the time and I'm fun. So no, her weight doesn't bother her. I didn't go around talking about it. Yeah, I didn't have anybody even share it with because my friends were not overweight. My siblings were not overweight. I really was alone in it. It was a lonely feeling. It was a lot of suffering, silent suffering.
Mhm. And you use laughter to cover that up.
I always laugh along with food and love addiction are paired. It's really common to have both. So I could have my best friend could take the pain. I would always want to be with my best friend, whoever my girlfriend was. Like, I probably would. I always wanted to be with them, whether if I was eating or with a best friend, I would feel better, and I wouldn't
But
feel whatever that suffering was.
so being alone, being by yourself was not something that you felt comfortable doing?
If I was alone, I was eating.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't handle it at all.
Mhm.
I was eating.
Did it ever occur to you to change your eating habits?
Oh, yeah. I was always reading about diets and trying diets. Always. My whole life, that's all I ever did. I was always trying and then I couldn't do it because I was always I was addicted to food, so I couldn't do a diet. It didn't matter what the diet was. As the diets changed, the fad diet, they started coming up with diets that had more food, like Atkins, because the whole idea of Atkins is eat as much as you want as long as you omit this. So, of course, I used to binge on so Atkins did something with numbers and they made products in the form of a candy.
Mhm.
And it had these numbers like, oh, it's only point 0.5 net carbs, something like that. And so I would just, anyways, I would binge on it because I'd be like, in my head, I'd be like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's a net carb as long as I don't eat bread. And I would actually make myself sick because those sugar alcohols give you
Yeah.
diarrhea and hurt your stomach.
Yeah, it's
They're
terrible.
really chemicals are bad, yes, but
They're
I was not
terrible.
my brain didn't my addictive
Yeah.
side, like, it worked because it was still I was chewing on a piece of chocolate. I wasn't
Yeah.
thinking so there's always 2 sides of us, so my authentic side was like, "I'm on a diet, I'm gonna lose weight," and the addictive side is, "I'll just keep eating this chocolate because that's gonna knock me out," and
Yeah.
yeah, food was always my go-to. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
always doing some diets, Weight Watchers, whatever, there's so many things out there. I was always trying something, and I was always trying to maneuver it so I could get more volume.
Mhm. So why is it that those diets don't work for people who have a food addiction?
It's like the food addict will play games with it because we always want the hit, if you will, the feeling. We want a feeling. So we'll take that. We don't want to be there's two sides of us. The addict in us wants that relief. We don't
Mhm.
want to feel pain. We want what we want. We want it now. We want to squash it immediately. And then the other side of us are, wants to be live the life we should be living. So the one side of me is like super like I'm cool and I'm creative and all these things and I love healthy food. That's who I really am. And then there's this addict side of me that wants to binge,
Mm.
and it doesn't go away. It didn't go away. I've learned how to manage, but it doesn't go away. That's what they
And
said. You're always right. It's part of me. Both sides are part of me. A diet, you actually can't if you have there's a belief that you really can't go on a diet if you have food addiction because it's a spiritual journey. We're turning to food for all our problems. And sometimes going on a diet that has points, anything
mhm,
with points, we're always thinking about it because that's what we do. We obsess. Yeah, diets are really hard. Anything with choices. I think it was almost when I finally lost weight, I didn't have any choices. And that was actually better for me,
mm,
and my brain didn't have to go crazy. It was
mhm,
better. Same thing with people, like with love addiction. I always want to talk, talk. I don't have an end. That's the thing of my nature. So if it could be bookended, so if there's like a program says, this is it, this is your list, this is it, I can do that. But you start giving me choices, I'll think of how am I going to get that in? And that's what I would,
mm.
if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. I think that's interesting. It reminds me of the Trader Joe's, grocery store model where you don't have choices. There's one ketchup, there's one mayonnaise, there's one type of food rather than a selection of several of them, because the whole idea is that psychologically people don't need they need to just have one. They don't need to have all of those choices. And if you've ever been into a grocery store in Europe, it's the same way. There isn't the same level of choice that we have. And so thinking about it is interesting. I'm going to food for that example, but the way that we work and having less choice for people tend to a more obsessive nature and need those guidelines, it really does make sense. So for you, what was it that finally turned it around?
So I was always struggling with my stomach, and I had a friend who was a doctor who said I would be a great candidate for like a tummy tuck. And so I, of course, went on a diet like the whole year. And I think I might have actually lost 30 pounds because I was so excited about this surgery. I thought, this is it. I'm going to be thin. I'm going to get this weight off. And then the tummy tuck will correct my lifelong pain because my stomach was more than that. Tummy tuck meant everything for me. I saved all my money because I'm a part time special ed teacher. So I put all my paychecks together, came up with that money. And so when the surgery came, I was still like a large, I was still like, I wasn't thin.
But you weren't a plus size.
I exited the plus size for
Mhm,
sure. It's
mhm.
more like a 12-ish, if but definitely not 14, 16. So I did all that work, lost like about 30, if you will, and then had the surgery, but I was not still wasn't the right size and the right size body for me. For being Italian and petite, I was not. Now I know that. Back then I thought, wow, this is a dream, but I wasn't. But my dream was to be a medium. I even did a vision board. I said, I want to be a medium. So, anyways, I just was like, wow, I couldn't do it. And it was COVID. And one of my friends were taking turns taking me to the doctors. And my friend was driving me because I got to stop and see my coach. What is this? And I was just, yeah, nothing works. She happened to be my height and I could see it. Like she was shaped like me. And every day she was like, oh, I lost another pound. And I thought, it's COVID. I didn't have much belief in anything at that point because I had tried everything and I thought it's COVID. I was so bored and I just tried it and I got this list and it was so minimal and I just did it and then I saw results and then the results kept me going. So to me, I realized it was so much better. And it what I liked, it wasn't a diet. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna eat keto forever. I could do it because it had an end. Like it was like 6 weeks and then it's over and then you bring stuff like and I was like, wow, this is cool because I don't have to do this forever. Because when I went to OA, which is Overeaters Anonymous, they had this uh, thought that you never have cake because that's the drug. Just like you would
Mm,
never have a sip of alcohol because then you're gonna. That can really mess up your head because food is part of life. Cake happens already. Like I'm not gonna turn into a monster. So all I knew was I didn't have to give up anything forever. I was just doing this for 6 weeks and every day I get this result. So I was able to do that, and that was the beginning of the change for me that I was to do something I couldn't do my whole life. And I
wow.
think it was just having and then I had help. I would go to her and I would say, "Hey, nothing happened. Let's go." "Oh, don't worry." And she send me a little something that was huge and it was like, "Wow, I could have food addiction and do something." Cuz all the other diets, I never I lost weight. I lost weight once before too for I really wanted to be pregnant and I was my friend who's a OBGYN, he said, "Your weight," and I was able to lose 25 pounds, and that did kick everything into I became a mother. I have 3 children now. So I was able to lose weight, but never all the way, and I'm a perfectionist. Like, I didn't wanna get that surgery and then still be, like, less heavy.
Mhm.
Like, they say in recovery, like, "Half measures avails nothing." I didn't wanna be half heavy.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel so, wow, I found a way. If I do this, this will happen. That made sense to me. Not all these, like, little games, like, "Oh, we're gonna count sweet points." There's no points in my mind. It's either
Yeah.
on or off. So, yeah, so that was, like, a really cool feeling that I could actually do something. And what was really cool was the first time in my life I went from that size and I was wearing a medium. I was like, "Oh," it just happened. I was like, "Whoa, my body's a medium now." And I didn't stay in the medium. Then I did another 3 or 4 week. You go off for a while. Then I did it again and I went to an extra small. And that's what I
Wow.
am today.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this was pretty recently then that you had the transformation.
This will be, yeah, it happened in 2020.
Okay. All
Um,
right. I love
fall.
that. So I can see why you're so passionate about it because it's really basically just happened just
So
around the
for
corner
my
from now.
every birthday that I had since then, so when I turned 57, I wore pleather and remember I bought Spanx. I even put it on Facebook, "I'm gonna buy Spanx," and be like, "Well, who does she think she is?" They were like $100, which is a lot for me. I don't really buy expensive things. I'm more of a consignment shopper, or I look for deals. But they weren't even on sale. They were just super cool, and I wore them, and I took a picture for 57 because it's the first birthday ever that I was thin. And I didn't even know I was an extra small. My hairdresser's, "You can wear my clothes." I'm like, "I'm not your size." But she recognized it because she was looking at me,
Mm.
and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm wearing Adele's jeans." She gave me some of her clothes. But then I turned 58 and I wore this really pretty dress. Then 59, which was last year, I wore a sweater dress. And this year I'm gonna be 60 and I have this really cool, I'm gonna be wearing blingy shoes. I have like blingy shoes and a blingy purse, and I'm wearing a white dress because my whole thing is light and with Lucy. Darkness is black, and that's all I ever wore. And now I'm actually wearing white. So my party is gonna be black and white.
Aw.
Gonna have a party of family. Yeah, it's gonna be with dinner and everything, and I'm gonna wear white. And I have I even have it here, but nobody sees this when they're listening.
It is on YouTube as well, so some people will see.
They
But
will
m
see.
some people on YouTube will see.
Can I show you?
Sure.
Can I
Yeah.
it's right here.
Okay.
So here's my for the I love this. There's the 60. I don't know if you can read it. It says
Aw.
60 and fabulous,
60 and fabulous. I love that.
right? And
Oh my
then I
gosh.
have, check out this bling. It
Oh, look at that beautiful purse. Wow.
And I have
All right.
earrings and shoes that are shiny.
So you're really looking forward to this. I love this. So I wanna
Oh, I'm
backtrack.
looking forward to the white dress.
I know, I love that. I love the idea that you are not hiding anymore, that you don't feel like you have to hide, wearing white, a light color, as opposed to a dark color where you feel like you're hiding behind that. I want to backtrack just a little bit to just to build a little bit more of the story. You said you have 3 kids. And I know that you did find someone at some point and you were married. Can we talk a little bit about your journey to finding a relationship while you were heavy and maybe not feeling so good about yourself? And just talk a little bit about that and how that was for you.
So I met my ex in grad school. I went to Lehigh for special education. And yeah, I met him there. And he's from India. I was going for special ed. He was going for engineering. And yeah, I met him at a party because I worked at a group home, and some of his friends from India worked there with me. They worked the overnights. So I had some friends and we went to a party and we met. And I remember thinking he was really thin, and I never liked that because I was heavy. I was probably like 195 or something like that. And so I was a plus size. I was in grad school, and but he really cared about me. So we got married, but yeah, the food addiction just really kicked in because it started with, even with the wedding, I never felt beautiful in that dress. And that's just something that women want to feel. Like, I just
Yeah.
remember feeling so, I just didn't like wearing that gown at all. It was so heavy. And
So even at your own wedding, you did not feel beautiful.
No, I didn't even wanna look at the pictures. Now I have pictures all the time and I can look at them. I was stressed at the whole wedding, and I tried the whole so I thought the wedding would do it. I was trying to diet the whole we were engaged for over a year. I had a whole year to lose weight. I couldn't. I
Mm,
probably lost 15 maybe or something, nothing that changed my body.
mm,
And I kept remember thinking, "Oh, I have a year. I have 6 months. No, I have 3 months. 3 months I could do it." And then I was down to I was getting my dress made. Um, yeah, so I that was just not a good experience. And then I just remember feeling lonely because I still would always escape with food, which I think I used food more because our marriage did not work. And it's not he didn't cause my food addiction, but I had it. So I still felt lonely in the marriage. So I was using food more. So then
mm.
my weight went up. I was even heavier. And I don't even like to show those pictures. So I was heavier. Like I said, I was twice my size,
How heavy were you at your heaviest point?
252.
250.
I remember seeing 252. And
And you're 5 feet tall.
yeah, it was a size 24.
Yeah,
Addiction progresses. Just that's
yeah,
the bottom line. And it progresses. Plus, I did not have, I felt lonely. So
yeah.
that brought me to that weight. And that was before having children because we were married for, we had 5 years in between marriage and until I got pregnant. So there were 5 years. So that's when the extra weight came on. So it was like that big chunk at college. And then I had that for a while. And then after marriage, I went up again,
Mhm.
another, say chunks of 50, whatever, maybe 50 pounds, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds very hard. What was the underlying pain that you could not eradicate?
I think it was the loneliness.
Was there anything beneath the
Because we
loneliness?
really didn't have communication. And when you don't have communication, there's no closeness.
Mm,
'Cause it always seemed like there was always agitation and frustration in the marriage.
okay.
So there was no like he was struggling, he was always frustrated. I found other outlets. So I must have blocked it out because I don't remember those first 5 years. I must have been using food. But I always had to have it. Food was never enough. I always had to have an outlet along with it to handle myself. Like there's food because there's no how much food could I eat? I
Mhm.
got to that weight and it still wasn't enough to relieve the pain.
Yeah.
So the what I felt when the loneliness stopped when I had my I think I put my all into and now it's coming back to me. I think I put my all into I was a teacher
Mhm.
and I remember my friends saying, "Lucy, you need a life." So because
Mm,
I was always doing extra. So I have so much creative energy that the food would sedate or I would be doing something. So I was really into my friends at school. I just couldn't get enough of that. Like we'd laugh at school and that's I found joy there. And I'd have my students and the parents and that's where I put my energy, my creative energy into that.
mhm,
And not my marriage because um we didn't really get along. So I did that and then I couldn't get pregnant because of weight, but then like I said I had my first child and that's what I remember wow, so in love with them. And then my next round of creative energy went into a business called A Child's Journey. I had Devin and I was doing parent child programs. So I was like Miss Lucy and I had so many friends again there between doing that, but I was still using food along with that. So I was doing those two things. But yeah, it's still that was as a mom and that was really hard. So I was always using something. I was
yeah,
always throwing myself somewhere.
yeah, it was like this pain you could not erase for some reason. Do you think that you got to the heart of it, though? Have you now gotten to the heart of it?
I'm not hurting today. I'm in a relationship and yeah, it's amazing. I'm not hurting like that where I have to throw myself. I can wake up and think about the day and not have to go escape somewhere with a
Mm,
business. And it's funny, I have a peace. Like I don't have any rush. I was never at peace. I was always like more, I don't have that.
mm. How did you conquer this?
I think really proving to myself that I could lose the weight was huge. And then I think that wearing a dress, like I never hated myself, but I was embarrassed, if that makes any sense. I don't
Mhm,
have a problem with, even when I was heavy, I didn't have low self esteem like that. I just was embarrassed of my body. There's a difference. I did not hate myself. I thought it was cool. Like I would want to be with me. I would want to be my own friend. I was not like, oh, I didn't hate myself. I think I'm pretty cool and fun and all that. So I didn't have that kind of low self-esteem. Oh, if I was hanging out with people, I'd be like, of course they'd want to hang out with me. So I didn't have that problem. I had always this, I wasn't in alignment because here I'm cool, I'm fine. Maybe my hair is pretty, I like healthy food, and then I'm overweight. It was like it took that last piece. I was like,
Mm,
why? I can't do this. Because I separate single. So I said I couldn't blame it on a man. I could, oh my gosh, I couldn't do anymore. Like I have thousands of people in my meetup group. It went from, it always goes somewhere. So I have a big meetup group that has 3,300 people. And I put things out there that the weight loss, I don't know, it just was like my biggest challenge. I can make other things happen, but just proving to myself that I could do that. It was the greatest gift to give to myself. I still feel like that heavy person sometimes, but when I get dressed, it's so enjoyable. I'm like, wow, this is fun. I could see why women love it. I never noticed. Wow, it is really fun to put on an outfit and like what in the mirror.
you finally found something that was stronger than the addiction.
You know what? It worked. Like I said, I think it was just not having all those choices and all that confusion. It was just like, if you do A, B will happen. That worked for me because I'm not afraid of working. It was like
Mm,
that knowing because so many other things I tried, I would just end up binging because I'd be like, nothing's happening. Like
mhm,
losing a pound a week, like no. But yeah,
yeah.
this works because even now, like I went to Hawaii a few weeks ago. Yeah, went to a wedding, my client's wedding actually, and I ate, and it came out. It didn't go away, and I was sitting next to Shaggy, who sings "It Wasn't Me," Mr.
Yes.
Bombastic. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
so his mom was there, and she's from Jamaica. He's from Jamaica, and I love that song too, "Darling, You're My Angel, You're My Darling." So, anyways,
yes.
his mom was sitting. So I didn't really fit the bride. She was my client. She's in her 30s. I was like, I wasn't family, but I sat with more like her parents in that table because I fit in with the age. And so I was next to Shaggy's mom, and she's 70 or 75. Yeah, so sitting next to her. And I was like, I'm either on or I'm off. And the food was coming out, and they had these hurricane fries. I was like, "Oh my gosh." So they put all this junk, so all as it was a potato and they were family style, and that was always my problem. Oh man. So like they would stop and I kept eating and then they were like, "Wow, you're really liking those fries." So I was eating them. And then I was triggered. So when the desserts came, oh, they had asked us for desserts and she was full. And I was like, I'll take hers. And it just came out of my mouth. And that's what I did when I was a kid in the cafeteria with my friends. They wouldn't
Okay.
eat their little squares in the tray. I'd be like, oh, I'll eat it. So she was like cracking up because she thought, oh, here she is. Like, I look so little. And then I'm eating. But that's still part of me. It didn't go
Yeah.
anywhere. And that was like totally exciting. So I did, needless to say, gain some weight. But yeah, what's cool is I have a way so I enjoyed that. Now I'll reverse it. I don't feel scared of that. Before it'd be like, oh my gosh, I won't go back. I won't go back to being heavy because I was eating like that. Because there were luau's and stuff. And I'm like, I don't understand that in my brain. My brain doesn't understand just have a little bit. Like a normal eater would just be like, oh, this tastes good. And then they would stop, maybe eat half of it or not me. So I'm fixing it. So I'm a few pounds away, but I'm determined.
Okay. So you're not afraid of going back into that lack of control with eating again?
No way. I'm too set up because I love people too much and now
Mm,
I coach it. So I care about being embarrassed because, like I said early on, my dad was always like, my family was
yes.
embarrassing, always loud, the way I carry myself. For me to tell my clients, I don't mind telling them that I binged and I'm working on it. But if I had to go back to wearing a bigger size, no way. I couldn't do that. That would be totally embarrassing. I'm here, I'm your coach, I'm helping you and I can't hold it together. It's too fulfilling for me to help somebody else, like to take my pain
Mhm,
and then help another man or woman get there. And it's so fun to
mm,
see your body change,
yeah, yeah,
to have a look. I have a size which I never thought possible. I thought a medium was a dream. It was a dream. I have it on a
yeah,
vision board. I'd be a size 8. And I thought, wow, that's a dream.
and now you're much smaller than that.
Yeah, much smaller than that.
Yeah. Do you think everybody with excess weight also has pain?
I do. I do. I don't know if it bothers everybody as much.
Mm,
Not everybody's a perfectionist, and they may not. Let's put it there. You just said excess weight. Excess
mhm,
weight doesn't hurt so much if it's just some excess weight. But if you're morbidly obese, absolutely. You can't go around, there's no way you can go around 50 pounds plus overweight, 100 pounds overweight, and say, it doesn't bother me. It hurts. And something had to happen to get to that.
yeah,
But yeah, but if somebody's a lot of there are a lot of people, it's really common, especially at my age. When I ask people this question, how often do you think about it? Usually people with weight, extra weight, think about every single day.
yeah,
Yeah. Even my boyfriend, he was never heavy, and he had some weight, not his weight, but his stomach. There's extra. And he's it really bothers him. 'Cause he
yeah,
never had it. That really bothers people. People that have never had it but people who've always had it, I think we all dream about not having it. I can't
mhm,
imagine waking up with extra weight and not thinking about it. I think people think about it every day. And
yeah,
maybe I'm wrong, but at least the ones I've asked, they tell me they think about it every day. People think
yeah,
about their weight a lot.
yeah,
Even thin people think about their weight. They think about keeping it. And then if they
mhm,
gain 10, they think about that 10 and it drives them nuts and they're so upset. Like I had someone in my family, she's look at this. She only gained 10 pounds. Terribly painful for her. She showed me, she was like lifting and she was like, look at this. It was so painful for her. And that was
yeah,
10 pounds. I have a friend who says, oh, it's fine. You're just fat shaming. No, I'm just saying it hurts. I'm not fat shaming. I'm saying it hurts.
yeah,
That's it's okay. We have to be so politically correct or oh, everything's okay. Everything's okay. You can't say
yeah,
anything anymore. Why can't we just say it hurts? It hurts.
yeah,
It
yeah.
hurts. It's not shaming it. It just hurts.
I agree, and I do think that there is a health issue at play in a lot of cases that people have to know that the consequences of carrying a lot of excess weight, like being obese, that there are consequences to the state of your physical body, your heart, your lungs, your things that are necessary for you to live a healthy life can be compromised when you're in that situation. And so it's a good idea to be able to talk about it authentically, be able to be honest about those things. I agree. But also loving yourself as you are, accepting yourself as you are, doesn't mean that you can't want to make changes and be better or be different than you are now. So, how do you think you can tell if someone is laughing on the outside but crying on the inside?
You can't tell unless you really get to know that person. I'm perceptive, so I can not everybody can tell. So for me, like people couldn't tell with me. You can't tell. People hide a lot. I don't think you
Yeah.
can tell. We don't know what's in somebody's heart. Unless you become close to that person, how do you know what somebody's feeling? Like you have blessings, these podcasts, and like I'm sharing now, but when I did my presentation at business when I shared, that's all they said. Oh my gosh, Lucy, we can't imagine that was you. We can't imagine that you had pain. That's what they say. They cannot imagine. And I think hurt more to have thrown myself into business so much or and to eat to that extent to be twice my size of my body. And I feel really normal the way I am. Nobody sees me and says, "Oh, I just look right size now. I don't look like I tried too hard or something." It's just very
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
So to be eating that much, to have that much pain or loneliness to eat to that level, it's a lot of pain. But
Mhm.
people say they can't imagine because I smile and yeah, I work really hard to accept my life, to accept and to forgive myself for
Mm.
I hurt myself all those years. I and even if you asked about my marriage, like when we would fight, so he it would hurt. He would hurt me. And then instead of yelling back, I would hurt myself with food. I wouldn't even
Mm.
eat. I would eat to hurt myself.
Oh,
It's like there's all different ways of eating addictively.
and you were doing it to hurt yourself.
Yeah. When I was in Hawaii, I was just eating to get it was the high. I was lonely in Hawaii too because I didn't really fit into any group. So I was just enjoying. I was just like enjoying. That's
Mm.
a different way. That
Mhm.
wasn't because I was hurting. I was just yeah, I'm gonna eat because I felt lonely. I guess that was because I was lonely and it was like good food and I
Mm,
couldn't stop. But then there's the eating to hurt myself. There's the eating to sedate myself. There's food can serve as a drug in many different ways. So that's why people
mhm,
say I eat for every reason to celebrate. That's what they mean. They're
mm,
getting a different effect from it. It's an inner hunger, and that can be different. Uh,
mhm. Yeah, but I love what you said about forgiving yourself because one thing I've learned in my many years of working with people is that you really do have to take 100% responsibility for your life if you wanna change, and sometimes we don't really think about that in terms of forgiving ourselves. We want to blame outside circumstances for whatever ails us. And I love that idea of forgiving yourself and looking inward. And so you're taking responsibility for it. Did you feel a shift to that?
I definitely have forgiven myself, and that's the reason I could do this podcast. I'm not like keeping this big secret, and the big test will be if I can share this podcast with my boyfriend. I don't want him to know that side of me. He met me this way.
Yeah,
He knows. I don't know if that's hard, but I don't know about that piece. But yes, but everybody else knows me that way. My whole family knows that was me.
yeah.
Um,
How does your
yes,
family feel about your journey now?
it's really, believe it or not, they don't say a lot. I think it hurts them to see me thin
Really? Why?
because they're heavy. No, they shifted. They were always thin, and it's this unspoken thing. I
Mm,
think because who I always made people feel good. I was always laughing with them and working harder, as I said, and they always felt comfortable because I was heavy. This is what I think. I
yeah,
just know that I'm treated differently now because they're like, I don't walk around like that. It's just different. It's really
yeah.
different.
I think when people do lose a lot of weight, it is a big shift in identity as well. You've become someone new.
Yeah, and it's not comfortable. Even my daughter, what's weird, she had gained some weight. She was in a relationship that affected her weight. She actually was giving me her clothes. She, "You can have anything because they're too small on her." And the one time I showed her a picture and she said, "I miss when you were heavy." Because it's not that I treat her differently, but it's probably the way she feels about herself with me. But now she's working on it and she's making a turnaround.
Mm,
And it's funny now, it's all how you feel about yourself. So I don't think I would do well with somebody who's upset about their weight, if that makes any sense.
mm,
I'm not for everybody. I'm either for somebody who wants to lose and they want my help, or somebody who's okay with themselves. But if they're really upset with themselves, I might make them feel worse just by being me. And
mm,
I made a promise to myself, even for my future relationships, I don't want to be friend anybody that I cause pain to by being me. I'm too
mm,
much. I'm too excited. Whatever I am, I don't want to hurt anybody. And
mm,
I even thought that with my ex. I don't want to be with a man who I'm too much. I'm really passionate about what I do as a life coach, and if if that would hurt a man, I don't want to be with that person because I'm always going to be passionate. I'm going to be doing this. I'll be in my 80s. I'll be helping people.
yeah.
I wouldn't know why I would stop.
I love that and really embracing your identity and fully loving who you are and knowing that you're not going to be for everybody. I think that's
Yeah,
very true.
I don't care. I did
Yeah.
care when I was younger. The people pleasing
Yeah.
disease, because I'm real now. I'm real. A lot
Yeah.
of people have a lot of pain. There's all kinds of pain.
There are.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night?
What do you mean? Worries?
Yeah. What kind of pain, what kind of worries keep you up at night?
I worry about my children and my youngest son. I worry about him a lot. I had a long-term separation, just finalizing all that because that's not in my control. So, other
Mm,
than that, but I don't worry about weight. I just know what to do. I don't worry about my relationship. I'm at peace. Yeah, I just have a peace, and that's all that matters to me is being at peace
mhm.
inside and outside of my body.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be yeah, I'm just at peace, and I don't really. I don't have that same mentality. Oh my gosh, I want to be so excited. I want to be excited. Everything's exciting nowadays. Oh, that's so exciting. That's wonderful. That's great. I think there's too much of that. Let's give me some nice peace and
Mhm.
acceptance. And that's more beautiful to me than all this excitement that's going on out there. If you ever look
Mm.
on Facebook, are you on Facebook?
Mhm. Yep.
Everybody's excited. I'm like, whoa, it's just too exciting. Do you ever notice that? Wow, we had a great time. It's exciting. My goodness. Yeah.
I
I,
think
I
that
like
happens when you get to know yourself or get to be at a certain point in your life where you find balance or you find an alignment of sorts. That's what happens is it becomes more tranquil. It becomes more less up and down and much more of a peaceful existence. I've definitely feel that in myself as well. That's
yeah,
so
it's
interesting.
it's a great place to be, but people usually don't eh, they don't know what to do with that level feeling.
Yeah,
So
because
used to
it's
being
you have to
stubborn.
sit with yourself and a lot of people don't want to do that. You're right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you really have to be able to sit with yourself on that evenness.
Yep.
You have to be good with what you're doing.
Yes,
You
you
can't
do.
be hating your job or hating your relationship. If you're hating something, there's no way you can be even. Then you're either, I would say you're either lower power or higher power. If you're going lower, you're resenting and have all these bad feelings. So you're always down there. So you're not even. Or if you're up there and you're high and you're too overly excited and then having anxiety and you're off the charts, that's not even either. So really being like even is in the present moment. And that's where peace, that's where you want to be, not all freaking out, excited, worrying, or rushing, and all that stuff that goes with it.
That's true.
Being all depressed and reliving the past and resenting and all that blah 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 blah. So yeah, being even, it's even hard to conceptualize shooting for being aligned, as you
Yeah.
said, the word alignment.
Right.
It's hard because it's an abstract idea. And then
Yeah.
I think one thing is too, everybody's looking for it in a quote, in a book, or in somebody else
Mm.
doing, "Oh, I'm doing this way, I'm doing that way," and it's yeah, it's just finally reaching, it's like a, I think being even is surrendering.
That's a
I think
beautiful way to put it.
it's that I'm gonna give up on trying so damn hard.
Mm. It's
Oh, what is
just
I'm
right.
trying? Just be like, "Hey," like for me, somebody's like, "Oh, you can get more clients." I'm like, I'm good with the ones I have. I feel good with what I have."
That's a beautiful place to be.
I remodeled my kitchen. It was always ugly. It was the last ugly thing in my house since I lost weight, and I'm thinking, "Yep, I don't need anything. I don't need anything else. Like, my kitchen's really pretty." That was the last thing that bothered me because
Isn't that interesting? Yep, the kitchen, the representation of food is the last thing that you've now remodeled in your life. I love that. So
yeah,
what
that
would you
was
s
the most expensive.
yes, yes, remodeling a kitchen, that is expensive.
And you know what color it is? White.
I
It was
love white. I
it was
love white
dark
kitchens.
before. It was really dark, and now it's
Now
light.
it's white. So
Yeah.
you're
So
embracing the light. I
yeah,
love
if I
that.
take a picture of
Oh,
my
so
kitchen,
good. So
um,
good, so good. So what would you say are the biggest lessons you've learned along the way in this life?
really just acceptance. Accept your life and try to live your own life. Don't live in this whole hype of what people are thinking and saying and doing. Just really just want people to know themselves, and all those years that I thought I wasn't good enough, I was more than good enough. And really not as much, there's a lot of talk about self-love. Put self-care first. Take care.
Mm,
Don't like trash. We hurt ourselves. Just don't do anything to yourself that you wouldn't do to your child or somebody you cared about.
oh, yeah, of
We just hurt
course.
ourselves. I exhausted myself and I over all that stuff. I don't want to hurt myself anymore. I don't even want to
Mm,
take on jobs that are too much. That's another way of hurting myself because I always say two words when I'm thinking about anything, doing something. I say, then what? Like I take on this job or I take on this person or this, I go, then what? And immediately I have the answer like, oh, that's going to be like stressing me out. Whatever comes, you go, ugh. You get that feeling, don't do it. I was always nervous. That's why I was eating. When I help somebody, because I've been like life coaching for a while before I lost the weight, but if I would be so nervous about, oh, am I going to do enough? And now I just trust in myself. I'm like, if I do it with love, there's more than enough.
mm,
There's, like, more than
mhm.
enough help, and I haven't steered anybody wrong because I do it in a place of love, and that's what matters. I don't, when I look at it person. I don't think about money or are they coming back or anything. I just think, let me help them through. What I care about is I don't want people to hurt. So
Yeah.
I think we need to stop doing what hurts us.
What about your blessings? What are you most grateful for?
Right now, I'm most grateful for this relationship that I have.
Mm.
I have a relationship that it actually it feels like it's like at my level.
Mm.
I was always adjusting myself for all my friendships and
Oh,
everything. I always downplayed myself or worked hard for it. He just sees me and I don't have to do that. I
yeah.
can just be me.
Yeah. Because, we do attract partners that are at our level where we are. But if you're not at a level where you feel good and comfortable, then you're going to attract someone there. And then when you change, you're going to be looking for someone that's at a more healthy level, which it sounds like where you are now.
Yes, I'm so thankful. I guess part of that, so like, if I go back to the beginning, which my pain was always like the loneliness,
Yeah.
I'm thankful that, or my blessing from God is that I don't have to feel lonely
Yeah.
in a relationship. That's the whole thing. You should not, if you're in a relationship, if you're lonely, you're not in a relationship. What are you in?
No.
You're in a hardship. There's all different ships. You're
Yeah.
in a relationship, right?
Yeah. That's not the right ship.
That's the wrong ship,
I
right?
better get on a
Yeah,
different
if
ship.
you're in a relationship feeling lonely or always upset, I don't know what that is. That's just, get out of that.
Right. It's not a good place. Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for this conversation, Lucy. I have loved talking to you and hearing all about your struggles in your life. And thank you for being so open hearted with us and sharing about your story with your journey and the weight loss. You're going to just touch so many lives. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I love being here.